Pokemon XD Gale of Darkness is kind of a bad speedrun, and I really wish it weren't so. The game goes on for way too long, you need ridiculous stat requirements to even play, and you have to fight Cypher Peon Gorog. It's really scary. But most notoriously is that the strategy for the final boss is only about 60% to work. Greevil, or if you're playing in Japanese, Death Gold, is conceptually a cool final fight for a Pokemon game. But in the any percent speedrun, because we have extremely limited options to work with, it gets turned into something much, much sillier. Hi, my name is Sparkle, and today I'm gonna talk about why this fight sucks. You ready? So when I say this fight is dumb, it's completely different than just calling it hard. There are plenty of hard fights in Pokemon speedruns, and a lot of them are legitimately cool. For example, the Tate and Liza gym fight in Emerald can go in many different ways, and it's up to the player to navigate through it correctly. You have to take into account things like Swampert's exact HP, what moves Claydol uses, and even the order in which you sacrifice your little guys. All of these situations come together to create a dynamic sequence of decision-making that is incredibly satisfying to pull off if done right. And yes, it is Pokemon, you can still die to randomness, but the point is that you play to your outs so you have the highest possible chance of winning with what you have. Kinda like a card game. Wait, no, please. The reason I brought up Tate and Liza in particular is because it's a Gen 3 double battle, the style that makes up the entirety of XD's story campaign. So with that being said, is Greevil's fight cool? No, this fight is simple in the most derogatory way possible. Like, it is not hard to play optimally at all. So how about we dive into why that is? Prepare yourself, we're going in. XD's final sequence begins with taking on Greevil's ultimate weapon, Shadow Lugia. Oh hey, I've seen this guy before. This is a good opportunity to explain what Pokemon we use in the run and why we use them. First up, we have Espeon. It is broken. Coming back for its second showing after Coliseum, Espeon is the ideal main for a Pokemon speedrun. Very high offensive stats, gets easy access to really good moves, and generally matches up well into most of the game's obstacles. And what's more is that we're able to use RNG manipulation to guarantee perfect special attack and a good hit in power. Oh, that sounds neat. How do you do that? That is a story for another day. One last thing is that Espeon natively knows Bite from starting as an Eevee in XD, which grants very useful coverage, and the 30% flinch chance can net you some nice time save. Oh yeah, fun fact by the way, both Wes's Umbreon and Michael's Eevee are illegal. They both know Bite before level 30, which is the only way Eevee can learn it in Gen 3. Charizard, kill these young men. It has come to my attention that I forgot how egg moves work. They're actually completely legal. But I don't want to undo the funny bit I did, so they're staying dead. Since XD is a doubles-only game, we need a secondary attacker to help out Espeon. Conveniently, we can just use the required Shadow Teddiursa catch to fill that role just fine, if its stats are high enough. Teddiursa gets access to Return after being purified, which gives it very solid damage output throughout the game, while also covering dark types for Espeon. Now, Teddy is terrible in the mid-game, but... whoa, what's going on? Uh-oh, it's Big Feast mode, watch out.
Feast mode activated.
Ursaring does a lot of damage, and not just with Return, we also teach it Hyper Beam for maximum brute force. But that's not all it has to offer. Teddiursa learns Fake Tears early on, which can help set up KOs for Espeon. This gives it a productive option even on turns where it can't find a kill itself, which is gonna come up a lot later. Since we don't play.
I'll get it.
Since we don't have the X item glitch from Coliseum anymore, it's the next best thing we have. So our team sounds pretty strong, but hold up, that's Shadow Lugia, and he's like really strong. Being a Shadow Pokemon, there's a few things that make Lugia different to fight against. Unlike regular Pokemon used by the AI, its stats are completely random, and because of the Shadow AI level boost, it's actually level 53, not 50. The fight itself is pretty straightforward. Bite, Fake Tears, heal off any damage, and then bite again. You win. However, because of its random stats, there's a very solid chance that Lugia survives this combo. This wouldn't be anything more than a mild inconvenience if it wasn't for the attack it uses, Shadow Blast. In XD Gale of Darkness, Shadow moves are super effective against non-Shadow Pokemon, and Shadow Blast is one of the strongest in the game. Combined with the high crit rate, it is not too unlikely to just get nuked by this move, so we'd heavily prefer not seeing it more than once. Now you may be thinking, well, it's a Shadow Pokemon, why don't you just catch it? You're funny. We don't have the Master Ball because it's an optional item in XD, and very far out of the way at that. Catching Lugia on turn 1 would save time in a vacuum, but we just don't have the means to do that. Now, I've made it sound scary, but really, fighting Shadow Lugia is not that bad. The 30% chance to flinch drastically improves our win rate, and what, you lost your run to a critical hit? Oh man, you got blue shell right before the finish line. It's like, what do you expect from this game? No, the real final fight is where things get much, much more sinister. Greevil is the only trainer in XD to have a team entirely made up of Shadow Pokemon. Half of them are legendaries and the other half are Gen 1 OU staples. Didn't know he had it like that. This is a daunting challenge to say the least, but compared to Colosseum, we actually have a few advantages here. In the fight against Evis and Colosseum Any%, we're both severely outleveled and completely at the mercy of his random leads. Because of how dangerous it is, we have to create a sort of catch-all setup that's able to reliably beat any possible combo no matter what, which comes at the cost of overall time. Against Greevil though, these obstacles just don't exist. Espeon is significantly higher level than his team thanks to the EXP share, and the mechanic of random trainer leads was completely removed in XD altogether. So with that in mind, maybe this won't be so bad. Doug, don't do it, I'm kidding. When it comes to doubles and Pokemon speedruns, it is imperative to know what the AI's Pokemon can do. In XD Gale of Darkness, the highest level trainer AI will always use the same moves in the same situations. This makes them predictable, which is nice, but depending on what they fixate on, it can make things very awkward. Big Delicious Death here makes things awkward. His entire team will endlessly barf their strongest shadow moves, and they are guaranteed to two-shot us. So the only real approach we can take here is do not let Greevil attack twice in one turn. Thankfully, Rhydon reliably gets one-shot by Psychic since Espeon is such a high level, so we can take that turn 1 KO. Take that KO? Let's take that KO, chat. We cannot take out Moltres in one turn, so we have to use Fake Tears on it. This does mean we have to take a hit, but as long as we don't get crit, it's fine. Alright, so far so good. What's next? Okay, let me emphasize just how ridiculous our situation is. So, like I said 40 seconds ago, Greevil's Shadow Pokemon will always use their strongest moves, and both Espeon and Ursaring can only survive one hit. Now this would be fine if Espeon could OHKO everything without setup. We could just spam potions every turn to heal off damage and then repeat until we win. Dude, that fight would be so lame and anticlimactic and I would be popping off. But we have to use Fake Tears to soften up the legendary birds, and this creates a problem. We can't take 3 actions with only 2 Pokemon. So basically, to make this fight possible, we have to find a way to omit one of these actions without immediately losing. And this is where Exeggutor comes in. Exeggutor's attack of choice is Shadow End, the strongest shadow move in the entire game at 120 base power. But it has 2 major drawbacks. The user takes half their current HP as recoil damage, and it has 60% accuracy. Can you guess where this is going? The most optimal route from here is to ignore Exeggutor for 3 turns as we take out the rest of Greevil's team, and hope we dodge. A lot. If in those 3 turns Exeggutor either hits the same Pokemon twice or crits, we basically lose. The one exception to this is if only Ursaring gets targeted and it dodges one in the first 2 turns. But that is unfortunately the slowest possible way to win, and it would be a most tragic victory.
Hey, Mr. Krabs, I did it!
So there is pretty much no way to play this fight safe. We can't get creative and try to heal stall or anything like that. Given what I've already said, all it would do is waste time. Oh, and one more thing I should mention is that in the world record route, over half of Greevil's team is not even guaranteed to be OHKO'd, so we also have that working against us. But yeah, I'm kind of out of things to talk about for this fight. That's kind of it. Hey, check out this clip I got. So, I think the main question now is, how did this fight end up being so dry? How are there no clever little workarounds like those you can find in plenty of other Pokemon speedruns? Why do our options just suck? Well, the answer lies in how XD's good AI actually works. Now, for the most part, it's the same as Colosseum. Trainers will always use the same moves in the same scenarios, they know how much damage their attacks do to your Pokemon, and if they attack, they will typically use the move that does the most damage. But there is one extremely glaring difference. In Colosseum, the AI will purposely target whatever they deal the most damage to with their respective Pokemon, and if they see a KO, they will always redirect their targeting to go for it. Think of it like drawing aggro. Oh, hi Mio, what's up? Jesus Christ. In Pokemon XD, however, this does not happen. At all levels, the AI will target at complete random. Every attack is a 50-50 between your 2 Pokemon. Now, this does not really sound that bad at first. In fact, it seems kinda good. It inherently takes pressure off your mons and gives you a chance to survive in a pinch. Seems pretty chill, right? Well, yeah. For normal people. The major problem with this is that it eliminates an extremely crucial aspect of speedrunning: consistency. Colosseum's last 2 fights are incredibly daunting, but we can take advantage of the AI targeting system to make them smoother. This comes in the form of foddering off weak mons in our party and teaching our 2 mains Protect. These tools work because we know what each of our Pokemon is getting targeted by. Now on paper, these same options should be able to help us against Greevil. We even have access to them in the run. There's the free Shadow Togepi that's barely out of the way, and we literally visit the shop that sells Protect TMs. But we end up not getting either of them because, when you think about it, they're useless.
Get in the crystal. Sorry, buddy, get in the crystal.
Because of this minor change to the AI, it takes away a huge aspect of what makes double battles so interesting for speedrunning. The Greevil Fight is really hard, yes, but it's also extremely dull. And stupid. There's no different angle, no clever solution, no trickety trick that's better than just flipping a slightly rigged coin for the entire fight. And that makes me kinda sad. Yeah, that sucks, man. Anyway, thank you all for watching. If you enjoyed, please consider subscribing and/or following me on my socials. And I'm happy to announce that I recently made a Patreon. That's right, the last minute of this video is compromised to my Patreon. I have 3 available tiers right now, and they all have super cool goodies that you may find interesting. There's the universal stuff, like early access to videos and behind-the-scenes content, but there are also some special perks. If you become a Mini Mawile, you join the MMMP, the Mini Mawile Marching Parade, which looks like this. Wow, hi Mini Mawiles! Next up is the Moderate Mawile tier, where you join the Mini Mawile Marching Parade and get a vocal shoutout from me at the end of videos, plus a general compliment. Catbag, Sedzi, CLO-A10, Daphne, and Chris from Deltarune, you're all looking so dazzling today, thank you. And finally, if you'd like to support a lot, you can join the Mega Mawile tier. Mega Mawiles are really powerful, and if you join, you can get access to the Mini Mawile Marching Parade, and I describe how powerful you are in one single take. .0, you're so powerful, you do 100% to Corviknight with Ironhead. And yeah, if you watched all that, then thank you, and hope you have a great day. Bye-bye.